Guys, where have you been? It's 2022. That's on me. It's my fault. We took a little holiday. Sorry about that. We've been working pretty hard and we just needed, a couple months to refresh and get ready for you in this amazing new year. Happy New Year. I know it's super late to be saying that, but I haven't seen you for a long time. So here we are. Welcome to Steinberg Sessions in 2022. We're going to start tonight with a really fun one. But before we do that, in case you forgot, I want to direct all of our new friends to the Yamaha Canada Solutions Facebook page. This is where you can get all the information if you don't see it in an ad or something else. But you can stay in touch with us here. If you have questions related to the sessions that we do, you can ask them here. I check this out all the time. It feeds me a notification, so I will get it. You can send me an email too, but maybe not everybody knows my email, although it has something to do with all this stuff down here. Anyway, it's great to be back. I spent a lot of time over the vacation producing, not only for Siobhan, my daughter, but for other people as well. And so I'm really fired up about what's going on. Cubase 11 and Nuendo 11. This is like my favorite version ever. It's rock solid. I'm really happy, loving doing the work. There might be a couple of things over there to talk about at a future episode. But for now, we are here to talk about lo-fi. What is lo-fi? This is a term that we hear thrown around these days. And, it's like, maybe not everybody knows what it means. Lo-fi stands for low fidelity, which is the opposite of hi-fi or high fidelity, which basically is to say with high fidelity, we have clean, pristine, amazing audio that's perfect in a lot of cases, if anything can be perfect. And certainly as engineers and people learning our craft, I don't know about you, but I spent most of my life trying to achieve high fidelity. In the early years of my production life, I had really crappy equipment. So high fidelity was kind of impossible. And as a result of that, I learned to just embrace low fidelity or lo-fi because my gear was giving it naturally. Luckily, in 2022, our tools, they all sound good. We're not going to get bad sounds using the current tools that we have, and certainly not in Cubase. But sometimes we want it. Why would we want something to sound lo-fi, low fidelity? Because it sounds kind of cool, and it's kind of a production style, and actually a genre in some cases. So anyway, because all these new plugins are popping up, and you keep hearing this stuff, I thought we should at least spend one night talking about it, although maybe we'll spend more than one night talking about it. But anyway, I skipped the video tonight because I missed you and I wanted to just get into it tonight. So here we are. I put together this little teeny, it's like a little short loop. It's about 8 bars. And the vocal sample in this is actually from the built-in sounds that are in Cubase. And then I grabbed a couple of samples from some sample CDs, and then I programmed a beat. So it's a pretty simple thing, and I just want to show you some of the ways and some of the cool plugins that I use to make stuff sound lo-fi. Okay, let's get into it. So here is our little session. Let me just make sure we have nothing on that we don't want on. Okay, we're good. By the way, I was like so talking up that slate limiter that I used on all my mixes, and I still think it's great. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I found a brand new friend from Plugin Alliance. It's this Brainworks BX limiter True Peak. If you want to make your stuff loud, this thing is incredible. It's a little pricey. But it goes on sale, and they have a subscription and whatever. So we'll get into this more in a future episode, but I just wanted to point out, in case some of you noticed, I've switched things up a little bit. This thing is so amazing. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's have a quick listen to our little 4-bar loop here, just so we can get it embedded in our brains.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14.
Okay, and it goes on and on and on. Okay, so what is the definition of lo-fi, and what's the kind of stuff that we're looking for with lo-fi? Well, usually, although in some cases this isn't necessarily true, but usually what it means is a lot of people think when there's no treble or no high end, no high frequency in a signal, it sounds kind of lo-fi. So that's kind of like the basic idea of what it is. And just as a place to start, I just wanted to show you, this is how in the old days I went about making things sound lo-fi. And you know, sometimes we record things through our phones or through little crappy speakers. Well, you can do it with an EQ plugin by basically taking all the bottom end out and all the top end out. And actually this is a little preset in this Waves Q10 called telephone, and there's another one called radio, which just has a little bit more frequency, but again the low and the high are all gone. I really like this telephone preset, so let's have a listen to that. So let's hear it without it one more time, and then I'm just going to put it on the vocal and we can check it out. So
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go
okay,
to
let's put it in. Okay, so it sounds lo-fi immediately. Now, this can be done with any plugin. So every single one of you, even using the built-in stuff, can do this. This is just a preset I've used on a pile of records over the years, and certainly a fun one. So lo-fi can be achieved with a simple EQ. What else do we got? This is, all my friends put me onto this. This is such a great plugin by Sound Toys. It's called Decapitator. It's like kind of an extreme saturator plugin. And you know, we can drive the signal, punishes just like a boost. We have a mix control and an output. And then as you can see, we can change the tone and we can cut lows and highs. And so again, sort of a function of EQ in lo-fi. So let's hear the sound without this, and then we'll put it in. Oh. So there it is without it. And if we put it in, now even if we take punish off and dial the drive down,
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away.
you can see that playing with the EQ controls or the tone controls on here can really enhance the lo-fi. And so if you add a drive to the EQ for a little bit of edge and a little bit of distortion, it can make a huge difference in achieving certain lo-fi effects. Okay, what else can we use? So we've got distortion, we've got EQ, we can also use a filter. And this is like just a standard synthesizer filter. Again, let's hear it without it, and again, it's only on the vocal. Oh, sorry, we still have Decapitator. Here we go. Okay, now let's check this out. This is really cool because with the filter we get an LFO, and we can not only do some sort of filtering and some other kinds of resonance controls, and there, as you can see, there's a drive as well. We can also mess with the LFO, so we can get some motion in the sound as well. So here it is.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And that's just a preset in here. This is a UAD Moog multi-mode filter. Incredible plugin that I use for a lot of things, not only for vocals, but it works for instruments, drums, anything you want. But so when you start to play with the filter, as I say, you can add drive, and I'll show you what that does. And then we've got filter, cutoff, and resonance, which is sort of a cool thing. And you were hearing kind of the sweeping thing, which was the LFO. But let me play with these a little bit so you can hear what's going on with that.
14 days till you say you love me. When you night, so let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away. 14 days till you say you love me. When you night, so let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away.
Oh, it's so fun. So there you got to hear the resonance, this sort of synthesizer sweepy thing. So don't think that we only have to use EQs and distortions. We can, which this basically has as well, but we've also got the filtering stuff. Okay, synthesizer filters, thumbs up for lo-fi. Here's one that's built right into Cubase, and you can find this in a bunch of different places. There's a bunch of plugins that do this, and it's a Bitcrusher. And what a Bitcrusher does, we know from our recording theory that normally what we want to do is we want to record in the highest bit resolution that we can. So we record in 24-bit or 32-bit float because that gives us a high quality sound. But this is lo-fi. So maybe taking that 24-bit signal and reducing the bits so that it sounds like it's 8-bit or less might be a cool thing. And we remember, for those of us that are of an old enough vintage, old video games, remember how crappy those sounds were? Well, those were 8-bit sounds. And in the early days of sampling, a lot of those early hip-hop records from the golden age, where the drums sound really, really kind of lo-fi and sort of like no top end and stuff, that was also because we had low bit rate audio. So this is a plugin called Bitcrusher that allows us to take this vocal and reduce the number of bits so that it sounds, it's not actually reducing the number of bits, it's an effect. So it makes it sound like it's not the pristine recording that we got. So let's have a listen to that.
14 days till you say you love me. So let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away.
Probably
and I
really,
know you like 14 days
really cool for
till you
breakdown.
say you love me. Funny one night. So let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away.
Okay, so I'm sure you recognize that sound from a lot of EDM music if you've ever listened to any of that stuff. And it's a super fun thing to use. And again, any of these effects can be used on any source, not only vocals, but drums, instruments, keyboards, anything that you could imagine. Okay, Bitcrusher. This was actually something I got for free. I believe it's always free. I can't remember if I got it on some kind of a special deal. I've had it for a while. But this is HiLow Phi 2, HiLow Phi 2. And what this one does is it incorporates the Bitcrusher, a drive distortion, a high and low pass filter, and then we can adjust the wet, dry, and the input and the output. So this is kind of a bunch of those things all put together. And it's a really cool plugin that has everything in one place and certainly sounds pretty cool. So let's check it out.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night. So let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night. So let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away. And I know you like 14 days.
It's amazing to me with stuff like this when you turn it off, at least to my ears. Sometimes when you put it on, it sounds a little harsh or a little weird or kind of whatever. but then I take it off and it sounds so plain. And so, you know, I think this is like a way to add a feature to a track that can make some of the elements really, really special. Okay, so check out HiLow Phi 2. We're getting into some of the spendier plugins, which cost a little bit more money, but have a level of sophistication that nothing I've showed you so far, except for maybe that Mini Moog filter, the UAD plug, really have. So this is one, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, I have to have this, because I really like the interface. So check this out. So WoW and Flutter, which I'm going to show you in greater depth in a second, but what that is that's related to tape machines. And in the old days when we used to record on reel-to-reel tapes, the motor that ran the tape, they were motors. And you know, if for those of you that have ever had a car, especially an old car, your motor doesn't always run the same all the time. Sometimes it's kind of shaking a bit, or it's a little slower on a cold day, or on a hot day it's running a little hotter. And tape machines are a little bit the same. So WoW in Flutter is basically sort of emulates the sound that we used to get on a tape machine from the motor kind of speeding and slowing up. And so we can adjust that here. I love this. This is like an age knob. So we can dial from newish to oldish. And I think any of you that have listened to music that was recorded in the old days probably have a pretty good idea what that knob does. We've got a dirt knob here, we've got a noise knob here, we've got a low cut and a high cut, so a bit of an EQ thing, and then mix level, and we can, you know, we can adjust the speed of the warble. So let's have a listen to this effect, because I really love this thing, and I'll dial around some things.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night, said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now.
So you can hear there's new, and if we take it,
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night,
the amount of
said
dirt,
let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes
we can add.
how they were your
So
best.
let's check out this WoW and Flutter, because it's really fun.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night, said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away.
It's pretty subtle, but you can hear it warbling a little bit, and of course the high and low cut.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night, said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night,
Now if I take it
said
out,
let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend
it
now.
becomes so ordinary, and it's so much fun with it in.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night, said let's go to Vegas.
Okay, I love this plugin. Expensive, but worth it. It's very cool. Comes from Plugin Alliance, as you can see down here. And it's the Neold Warble. Okay, so we've been talking about WoW and Flutter, and I love this plugin. I just think this thing is great, and I'm using it on my 2Mix these days, and we can, I think I maybe shared that with you guys last year a little bit, but we can dig into that a little bit more in the future. But I've got some extreme settings here, and if you're listening on headphones, you can probably already hear the noise. It's like a vinyl record, and the crackle. So that's pretty fun, all adjustable on a knob. It's not like when we used to listen to vinyl records and you had that and you wanted it to go away. We can actually control it here. So yeah, this is the Abbey Road vinyl by Waves. Okay, so what I've done is I've set WoW and Flutter at extreme levels here. And I've sort of gone with a print, a DJ turntable, and a DJ cartridge, which are generally a little bit lower quality than sort of like a lacquer master quality, which you can also get from here. But in any case, let's have a listen to what this extreme WoW and Flutter does to this vocal. So here it is without.
14 days till you say you love me.
put it in.
Said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you
I hope none of you had car problems in the last 2 weeks, because that's kind of what in those cold days, that's kind of what it might have sounded like, your car motor. But it's much more fun in audio. So anyway, one more time.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now
And again, it's such a crazy thing when it's extreme like that, but when you take it out, all of a sudden it's like, oh, something cool is missing from the sound. So again, you can use a vinyl plugin, and now we're kind of into a couple of really special plugins. This Waves one, Retrofi, is not expensive. At least most Wave stuff goes on sale at some point or another, but this is a really, really deep and cool plugin. So what have we got here? We've got a device section, which basically we can choose our era. It's kind of like the new old switch on Warble. So we can switch between the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And we can sort of make some adjustments and adjust the mix in that. We've got a space section, which is sort of a delay and an echo, but it's really cool, and I just used it in a track we'll break down in a future episode. I used it on the intro piano, and it just gave this really cool kind of weird atmosphere that just didn't sound like a normal reverb like I was used to. And then we've got noise, and we've got mechanics, which again is wobble, wow, flutter, and you can change the speed. We've got high and low pass, so again an EQ. So this plugin is deep, but let's just kind of have a listen to what I've pulled up here right now and see what it is.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny
Okay, here we go. This is metalcore vocals on the 70s.
sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night.
Okay, so we're in the
said let's
70s
go to
here.
Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend,
60s,
now so far away. And I
50s,
know you like 14 days. Till
80s.
you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
Pretty big difference.
Sometimes how they were your best friend.
And one of the cool things about this is that we've got like all kinds of like plugins in a whole bunch of different, categories. There's a vocal section at the bottom. Let's just have a listen to, that was a preset that I just played for you. Let's have a listen to each of these vocal presets, just because it gives you sort of an idea of the breadth of this plugin. It's so amazing. Here we go. This is called Death Star Voice.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
Pretty great. This is called LoFi Slapback.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
Okay. This is called Mr. Roboto.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
Okay. This is called Noisy Mic Pre.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
Okay. This is called Swampy Vocals.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
This is called Thin.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas. How they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like
That's so fun. And this is called You Got Issues.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas.
So, as you can hear, the interaction of having all of these different sections in one plugin is phenomenal. And these are just presets. Like, I could go in and I could tweak these and sort of refine them for my particular purpose. And so this plugin is only limited by your imagination and well worth it if you like to experiment with some of these sounds and sound design and adding some of these fun things into your productions. Okay, so that's Retrofi by Waves. I saved kind of the craziest for last, and it's called LoFi AF. And that is not an exaggeration. This is also a Plugin Alliance plugin, and this thing, this is just like the most intense variety of lo-fi that I have ever heard in my life, all in this plugin. And again, we've got a convolution section, we've got spectral section, a digital section, which is bit crushing and stuff, an analog section. We've got noise. We've got basically any sound you can imagine that's sort of lo-fi and crappy. It's here. So again, let's just spin through some presets because this is super fun.
14 days. You say you love me, funny one nights. Said let's go to Vegas, funny sometimes. How they were your best friend now so
It's pretty cool too because you can kind of see this cool graphic readout as well. Let's listen to hear some more sounds.
Said let's go to Vegas, funny sometimes. How they were your best friend now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me, funny one nights. Said let's go to Vegas, funny sometimes. How they were your best friend now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me.
Like for me personally, I generally speaking don't like to add a lot of noise, but that's like 30, almost 36% noise, and I really think it sounds cool.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. And let's go Vegas, funny sometime. How are your best friend now so far away?
And again, in context.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. And let's go to Vegas, funny sometime. How are your best
So let's go to Vegas, funny sometime.
It's so scary.
14 days till you say you love me, funny.
Anyway, this one is really extreme and might be better suited to sound design than to music, but it's a lot of fun nonetheless. Okay, now we don't want to just like make this about vocals, even though vocal is a good place to really be able to hear the stuff. You know, let's check out some other things we can do. So let's have a listen to this bass by itself. And it's a real bass recording. It's a sample. Okay, and for the most part, that would just sound great in the track like it already does.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas, funny sometime.
So that works. No reason to mess with that unless we really want to do something different and fun. So one of the things I like to do with bass, and it really gives a track a vibe, is to add some saturation, which is just a form of distortion, but it's maybe just a slightly different sound than distortion. So I've got here the Abbey Road Saturator. Let's solo the bass track, and let's just hear what the saturator does, just on its own. Okay, it's out. Let's turn it on. Okay, pretty cool. It just kind of focuses the upper range of the bass, which might actually be good in the track. Let's have a listen.
14 days till you say you love me, funny one night. Said let's go to Vegas, funny sometimes. How they
actually helps you hear the bass a little bit more because it's emphasizing those upper mid-range frequencies, probably around 700 or 800 hertz. Now what happens if we actually crank up the saturation? So it's kind of cool. Let's hear that in the track and see what it sounds like.
14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's go to.
Now I might use that for something, but a little trick with bass anyway, when you saturate it is, and this is going to seem counterintuitive, but we are talking about lo-fi here. So one of the things I like to do is bring in a filter and actually roll out some of the bass, so that the saturation, the distortion is focused in that area that we really want to hear it. So let's hear what happens when I roll up the low cut filter.
14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes.
So it's a little sloppier with all that extra low end, which makes sense because low end can really affect saturation and affect distortion. So let's have a listen to our lo-fi saturated bass, and then we'll hear it just playing all by itself. So here it is.
14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's go to Vegas.
Okay, and we'll take it out and turn it down a little bit so it's more equal in level.
14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's go.
It actually softens the groove up a lot without the saturation, and actually there is a little less bottom, but not a lot less, and it actually makes the bass kind of sit in a cool place. Let's hear it without and with one more time.
14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's
Okay,
go
let's
to
bring it in.
Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. 21 nights said let's.
And just so you know, I started with a preset in the Abbey Road saturator that's called Fat Electric Guitar. So it's actually meant for a guitar. So don't think that because something is named for one instrument, you can't try it on another. Just try anything, because you can have a lot of fun that way. But I actually think it's a little bit funkier with these settings, with less of that bottom end effect. So Abbey Road saturator, amazing. It's really, really great for a lot of things. Works great on vocals, works great on all kinds of things. Okay, let's turn that off, and we don't want to leave the guitar alone. Here's the guitar part again, which is just a regular electric guitar, just a sample of an electric guitar. Okay, sounds pretty good in the context.
Now so far away, and I know you like what.
Let's take the vocal out. Okay, sometimes we can use regular tools. Now this is a particularly cool plugin that I haven't had for too long, that I wanted for a long time, and it's based on a compressor called a Compex, which is from the 70s, I believe. And whenever I used to work in a studio that had a Compex, I loved it, especially on drum rooms, because it would give this crazy, intense compression, sort of like what a distressor on Nuke does these days, but it just was harder sounding. And so I was really happy. David Bendeth, who's a well-known producer, he actually sort of led the team, and I think they modeled his particular Compex with this, and wow, does it ever sound good. And it's connected with an EQ, so you can set that up pre-post, or you can actually adjust it as a sidechain, which is pretty awesome as well. We won't get into all that tonight, but this was just a preset called Deep Hard Kick. It's actually meant for a kick drum, but I wondered what it would sound like on guitar. And you know, when I play it here, you'll see the meters are going, you know, like they're really moving, and I think it sort of, it might not be the kind of compression you would immediately go to because it's a little extreme and lo-fi, but it actually helps the groove of the guitar a little bit. So let's check it out. Let's turn it off. Wow, not so groovy anymore. I really like what this does to the attack transients on the guitar. Let's hear it again. It's off. And let's kick it in. Look at those. Just for fun, let's put this bass stuff back in here and see what's going on. Listen to how much more room the drums have now. I'll turn it all off. Drums don't stand out as much, but when we start messing around with this lo-fi stuff, the drums come out a lot harder. Anyway, pretty awesome, pretty cool. This is called the Plus 10 dB, and it's by a company called Boz Digital Labs. It's from the David Bendeth collection. Highly recommended. I think it might be on sale right now, cheap. So for sure, check that out. Okay, and you know, not to leave the drums all alone, but you know, one of the great things, and I'm pretty sure you all know this already, but one of the great things you can do to make a sort of a regular drum loop or drum part, when we're talking about samples or real drums, the same principles apply. Just extreme compression and messing around with attack and release can really make a huge difference to a drum sound as well. So I've pulled up here, this is a soft tube plugin called Mic E. It's an Empirical Labs plugin, and it's essentially kind of a simpler distressor. You could do this with a distressor as well. But what I really like about this is it has a preamp section, and I'll show you what that does in a second. As you can see, I've got it cranked way up here. But let's have a listen to what this setting is doing, and then we'll break it down a little bit. Here we go. Let's turn this off. So much harder. Let's hear it without it. And with. Now you can see here on the Empirical Lab stuff, there's a little light that says bad clip, which means we're overdriving it. But this is a session on lo-fi, so that's good. But normally we don't want that. But let's break down what's happening here. So I have it set on nuke, which is, you know, the distressor and all the Empirical Lab stuff. That's their most extreme compression setting, and it's a lot like on an 1176 compressor, which we've talked about a lot. When you push all 4 buttons in and it sort of acts erratically. This is kind of based on that effect, and so I've got it set to that. I've got the attack really slow, and I've got the release kind of fast. So let's listen to what the preamp does first, and then we can sort of mess around with these other settings and see what happens. Okay, so here's what the preamp is doing. Let's turn it down. You can see it's compressing less. So in the case of our drum loop here, this bad clip light that's telling us we're doing something wrong, I kind of like it, so we're gonna go with that. Anyway, let's leave it on nuke, and let's mess with the attack and release. One of the things that works really well, and I used to do this with room mics when I recorded real drums, is to set the attack and the release at their fastest settings. Let's hear what that sounds like. And if we even drive the input more. Now that's pretty extreme, but on this plugin, and you can do this in real life too by having it on 2 separate tracks, or if you have this plugin, we can actually mix the original signal with this really distorted compressed sound. So let's hear what that sounds like if we add some of the dry signal back in. We can turn up the output. Let's take it out. Whoa! So, pretty extreme. Now, let's not just rely on distortion and filters and EQs and compressors and crazy bit crushing and noise and warbly things. We can also use some tools that are pretty standard, like a reverb. And I've got this really cool reverb here. We'll go back to the vocals for a second. I've got this really cool reverb pulled up here. It's made by SSL, Solid State Logic, called FlexVerb. This might also be on sale right now, so check it out if you can find it. But this is a really different and interesting reverb because it has sort of a compressor setting so you can duck it. So if you put it on a vocal, it suppresses the reverb when the vocal is in, and then it comes up after, so it helps your vocal stand out. But the thing about it I think that is most exciting is that it has this really incredible EQ section, and as you can see I've got a pretty extreme EQ curve happening here. So this is a really neat, it's got all the different flavors of reverb that you would want. Chamber, plate, hall, room, and just a lot of really interesting different ways of controlling it, and it's really simple and I really like it for that. So check it out. But lo-fi can also be achieved by leaving the vocal or our instrument or something else alone and actually just adding a lo-fi reverb. So let's hear what that sounds like. So it's out right now. Let's just hear where we're at.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now.
I gotta have that aggressive guitar. Sorry guys.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one
Okay,
night.
let's add the reverb. Let's hear what it sounds like.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away, and I know you like.
Okay, so other than the obvious thing that I have made this basically all mid-rangey, I've got a lot of pre-delay here. The size is pretty big, but I've also added a lot of modulation to it, which sort of gives it that kind of warbly sound a little bit. Let's hear it one more time.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night said let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend now so far away, and I know you like. 14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night
Let's pan
said
this,
let's go to Vegas. Funny sometimes
and let's pan
how
this.
they were your best friend now so far away, and I know you like.
Now what happens if we add some of this other lo-fi stuff to it? Too much fun. Okay, and it's not only about reverb. We can also have fun with delays as well. And I've loaded up this really very cool tape echo made by Softtube called Tape Echoes, and it's got some sections. It's got a filter, high and low cut. It's got clean versus bad, and of course today we want bad, so it's all the way over here. It's got a reverb. You can mess with the stereo imaging. It's just a really great, a lot of control. There's a drive here, and you set your delay time here, but let's hear what I've got set up here. We can get rid of FlexBurb now.
14 days till you say you love me. So let's go to bed.
Okay, so if I take off the lo-fi effect on the vocal, this is just the clean vocal, but it sounds lo-fi because we have a lo-fi effect on it.
14 days till you say you love me. So let's go to bed.
Let's try the telephone effect. And actually, sometimes I leave the vocal clean, but I actually copy it on another track, and I make the track that's sending to the effect lo-fi, and send the lo-fi one through the effect, but I pull the fader down so that I can't hear it in the mix. So that's another way that you can sort of have fun with this. Okay, we've kind of had a lot of fun sort of screwing around with all these different things. But I don't want anyone to leave tonight thinking that this can only happen on individual instruments. You can put this kind of stuff on the whole mix, and it actually can vibe out your mix in a very cool way. So I have a couple of different tape-based things. This one is called Tape Cassette, and this is another freebie. You can get this one if you look for it. It's called Tape Cassette 2 by, I think it's Calum Audio is the company. Anyway, pretty simple controls. Wow, Flutter, because it's a tape thing. We've got noise, a low pass, and a saturation, and that's basically all we have to worry about here. So let's hear what this sounds like on the whole mix. And I've used this plugin a lot, even though it's a freebie. This does not fall under the free and kind of plugin. This falls under free, and this is amazing and usable. So let's check it out.
14 days till you say you
Okay, so
love
it's not in.
me.
Let's make our mix sound like a cassette, shall we?
Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night.
There's the
So let's
wow.
go to bed. Funny sometimes how they were your best friend, now so far away. And I know you like 14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night. So let's go to bed.
Listen to what it's doing to the guitar. Let's put the guitar compression on, and then let's put this tape cassette on. That's fun. You could just use that. So anyway, what a great plugin this one is. Tape Cassette 2. All right, I've got another one. This one is Arteria, and this one is pretty fun too. So in this one, we've got a preamp. We can add noise, tone, drive, wow, flutter, where we can actually make it sound like an old broken down tape machine. There's a low pass and high pass filter over here, and then there's the pièce de résistance is that we can start and stop the tape. Check this out. Oh, let's get it off solo here. Here we go. Here's without.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night. So let's go to bed. Funny sometimes
Okay, here we go.
how they were your best friend, now so far away.
I would totally put that on the whole mix.
14 days till you say you love me. Funny one night. So let's go to bed.
Okay, you ready for it? It's fun.
How they were your
before I do this, you can automate this too, and I have, and it's really cool in a mix, even if it's not a lo-fi mix. This is a cool thing to do. Here we go.
14 days till you say you love
We're gonna stop.
me. One night,
Oh, slowing down. Here we go.
how they were your best friend, now so far away.
One more time.
And I know you're like 14 days till you say
Here we go.
funny sometimes, how they were your best friend, now so
And again, the mix just doesn't sound nearly as cool without the tape Mellow Phi by Arturia. I hope you found tonight fun, this little exploration on some sort of unusual and different and lo-fi sounds. And I hope that you all feel inspired to experiment with some of these great things. I'm having all kinds of fun incorporating this stuff into my current productions, and it's kind of cool right now too, so maybe a good idea anyway. But anyway, if you have any questions, Yamaha Canada Solutions, hit me up an email. But as for now, that's all for tonight. It was great to catch up with everybody, and we'll see you soon. Let's play the track
14 days till you
with tape Mellow Phi.
14 days till you